Okay, so the next part is we are going to work on some series based questions. So what are the number series based questions? We already did some of them in previous session. So we were printing every numbers through this, through a while loop. Okay, so now I'm focusing on some series based questions like this. So the first question is we have to write or print a series in this form. So this should be printing like this: 5, then 6, then 7, then 8. Okay, we have to print this series in horizontal format. We already know how to print the series in vertical format, because print statement by default change the line. If I write hello, so after printing it will change the line. So if I print something like hello user, it will print the second statement in the next line. So every time I'm using print statement, it is printing the value and changing the line. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to stop print by using new line character, or by using new line characters generally. So let's focus on print first, then we are going to work on this problem, because once we stop printing uh, uh, printing from using line change statement or /n character, we only then we are going to print this particular series. Otherwise the series will be printed vertically. So let's focus on doing that. We have a default argument in this function. As we already know, print is a function. What are default arguments? Default arguments are counts with some default values. That default values are already inside those values. Otherwise, we can assign some different value to it. So if I write hello, comma, I'm using that default argument, that is and. Okay, as we already know, this is a function and we haven't worked on function yet, but consider this as default argument. We will understand these in detail when we learn about functions. But here and statement will what will and statement will do? Let me insert something and write here again India or user. Okay, now if I write /n, we already know what is /n. What this and do? And argument will add this string to with hello. Okay, like this. Hello will be here. Sorry, hello will be here, and you are going to add the value of and here. So it will look like this. Okay, you're going to add hello with this string. Okay, so here and will add the string with whatever you are printing. Okay, so when you do this, /n will change the line, so it will work as same as we worked here. So by default the value of and is /n. So if I run this, it will print the same. But if I use the same statement, and this time I'm not using /n here, I'm using a space. Okay, so this space will be added with hello, so it will become hello space, and further code will be executed, that is user will be added to it or will be printed there. Okay, so if you run this, this will be the output. So hello and space will be added to hello because of this and statement. Let me change some values. Whatever you write inside and, so if I write plus will be added to hello, so the output will be like this. So this way we understand that by default value of /n or by default value of and is /n, but if you change it to something else, for example, I'm giving here empty string, no spaces, nothing. So if I run this, hello and user will be printed without any space, like this. Okay, let me do this one more time. and this time I'm using backward slash t. We already know backward slash t. It will give 8 spaces. Let me run this. You will find 8 spaces. So this way you can stop print statement by changing the line. By default, it will change line because the value of end is backward slash n. That's why it is changing the line. And by default, and is available in every print statement, whatever you are printing, even though you're not specifying the value of. We already know this by this. Okay, so we will work on default arguments later, but let's focus on this particular question. Let me copy this question and run this one more time. Now, what do we want? We want to print this statement, this series, number series, will while with using while, and we have to make sure that print statement will not change the line. So I'm using a variable. We are starting from 1 and we have to go to 10. So let me give the condition here. So I is less than equals to 10. The conditions, this loop will work 10 times. Okay, let me print something. We want to print the value of I again. We already know this because the value of I is 1. In the next iteration, it will becomes 2, then 3, and then 4 until 5. Okay, so I'm incrementing the value of I. Okay, if you do not increment the value of I, this loop will continue to execute until infinite values. So you don't have to do this because the value of I is not changing. It is 1 already, and it will be 1 if you're not incrementing it until 10. So this condition will always be true, and it will print 1 and 1 and 1 1 until infinite times. So let me run this. If you run this, it will print everything in vertical order, but we don't want everything in vertical order. So what we are going to do, we are going to use the default argument, that is end. We already know the default value of end is backward slash n. So now what we do, we are going to give 2 spaces here. So this 2 spaces will be added after 1. 1, 2 spaces, 2, 2 spaces, 3, 2 spaces, 4, 2 spaces. So this is how it's going to work. So let me run this. That's it. This is how you're going to work on series based questions. Okay, let's move forward and add some more questions. So what will be the output of this particular series? You can pause the video and solve on your own. So this will be this 25, 36, 49, then we need 64, 81, 100. So what will be the output of this particular series? What will be the output of this particular series? So let's solve this particular series. As we already know, this particular series is showing something as squares. So if you focus on the previous string, previous series, square of 1 will be 1, square of 2 will be 4, square of 3 will be 9. So this is a series of squares. Okay, so how we are going to focus or solve this? What is a square? We already know what is a square again. So when there's a number 1 or there's a number 3, for example, if you want to calculate the square of 3, you just multiply it by itself. Easy. So let's do that. So if I write while, or I'm going to use this particular part, while I is less than equals to, I'm going to use 10 again. Why I'm doing this? Because I want to print 10 values only. Because my while loop is going to print something and it is going to print 10 values only, not more than that. That's why we are focusing on 10. Most of the students use 100 here, so it's not a good idea. Okay, because we are not changing the value of I until 10, we are just changing the value of I to 10 only. Okay, let me show this. So what do you want? We want to print the square of that I, not the I, square of the I. So if you want to print the square, just multiply it like this. comma. We don't want to change the line. That's why we are using double spaces here. Now we have to increment the value of I. Easy. Now what is this? Let me explain it to you here. So if you print, let's suppose I have a variable called A. So if I'm going to print the value of A, we already know in the first session when you're working on variables. So if you add 10 to it and print A again, the value here will be printed 20, but the value of A is still 10. Why? Because you added 10 to it, but you didn't assign it again into A. If you have write like this, A is equals to A plus 10, the output will be different because the value is added by 10 and will be assigned into A again. So we don't using this, that's why it is just adding the value, returning a 20, and because of print statement 20 will be printed here, but there is no change in A so far. So if you use A, it will print like this, correct? So that's why it is giving you this option. So here when you use I, the value of I will be 1. 1 multiplied by 1 will be printed 1. It will give you 2 spaces. The value of I becomes 2. It will rotate. 2 is less than 10, condition true. 2 multiplied by 2 will be 4. So 4 will be printed, but the value of I is still 2. Okay. So in the next step, it will become 3. It will rotate. 3 is less than 10. 3 multiplied by 3 will be 9. So 9 will be printed, but the value of I is still 3. Okay. So let me run this, and here's your output. Okay. So this is how you work on series questions. So we will do some more questions in further session. Okay, we also know how to stop print by changing the line, and we also know how to print these two series. Okay, let's move forward with other questions, but let me end this session here.